The city woke under sleet that felt like ground glass. Dawn pressed a gray palm to the Conti Tower's windows, and the river ran darker than ink below. In the corner office, where the glass met the sky, Luis Conti signed his name the way he did everything else, clean stroke, clear intention, while the building hummed on his schedule. Lisa Smith entered without a sound. She never knocked. He told her once she didn't need to. She carried 2 files and his first espresso, cup steady, the saucer's porcelain whispering against the lacquered desk. Today, though, steadiness was an act. When she reached to place the cuff of her cream sweater caught, sliding an inch too far. A coil of purple shadowed the soft skin of her wrist, a map of fingers that didn't belong there. Luis didn't look at the bruises. He looked at her eyes. People told the truth there when they couldn't anywhere else. "Morning," he said, voice low enough that it didn't bruise the silence. "Morning." She straightened the cuff in a single practiced motion and set the files exactly parallel. "Shapiro's downstairs with attorneys. He's early. He's impatient. He's always impatient." Luis closed the pen, capped resolve. "Move him to Conference B. The light makes cowards honest." Lisa's mouth twitched, her version of a smile. "Copy." She turned to go, but he caught the smallest flinch as the strap of her bag slid across her shoulder. Pain. Fresh. He filed it and let her leave because timing mattered. Protection, done wrong, is just another cage. Shapiro came in with winter on his coat and greed on his breath. He slammed a fist against the table hard enough to tremble the water. "Your guy on Cicero shorted the shipment. I want it corrected today." Luis didn't glance at his phone or his watch. Power, real power, never hurries. "Sit, Daniel." Shapiro bristled. "Don't tell me." Luis looked at him. The air changed. Men like Shapiro wore big watches because they had no clocks in their bones. Luis did. Shapiro sat. The door opened again. Lisa slipped in with an updated ledger and placed it in front of Luis. Shapiro's eyes dragged across her like she was a glass he wanted to smudge. "Sweetheart, can you—" Luis's gaze cut sideways, a razor without motion. "You speak to me." Shapiro swallowed. "Fine, your margins are off." Luis turned the ledger. "My margins are precise. Your drivers aren't." He slid a photo across. Shapiro's warehouse, gate ajar, midnight timestamp. "Fix your lock. We're done." Shapiro stood, rage unable to find purchase. He snatched his scarf and shouldered past Lisa, catching her arm. She sucked air through her teeth. There, the wrong grip on her right side, and Luis was already up. He didn't touch Shapiro. He touched the door, opening it with a calm hand. "Marco," he called. Marco DeLuca filled the frame, a wall in a navy coat. "Boss." "Mr. Shapiro's finished." Shapiro looked from Marco to Luis and decided he loved breathing. He left, noise receding with him. Marco lingered a beat, eyes flicking to Lisa's arm, then to Luis. Orders unsaid are still orders when they've been shared enough times. Marco nodded and disappeared. Lisa set her shoulders like a soldier. "The 10 a.m. moved to 11. I'll fix the calendar." "Sit for a second," Luis said. She didn't. "There's a procurement call in 2 minutes." "It can wait." She sat. Silence lived between them, familiar and easier than sympathy. Luis never asked for stories. People told them anyway. He looked at his own hands, hands that signed contracts, that built, that broke when necessary, and then at the thin gold chain at Lisa's throat. It trembled against her pulse. "You're good at hiding things," he said. "Occupational hazard. I don't pay you to absorb other people's violence." She exhaled, the kind of breath that steadies a spinning room. "I'm fine." Fine is a code word. So is noted. A ghost of amusement, there and gone. "And you do say it a lot." He almost smiled. Almost. "Lisa." Her name changed shape in his mouth. She looked away first, out at the river, at a barge shouldering through gray. "If I say it out loud, it becomes evidence," she said, voice level. "And then I have to do something. I'm tired of doing things I shouldn't have to do." He waited. Patience was sometimes the only weapon that didn't leave marks. She touched the cuff again. "It's old, mostly." Mostly is a code word. Another breath. "My ex. He came by my building for a talk. And that was last night." "Ryan," Luis said. Her head snapped toward him. You remember? I remember everything. He held her gaze, then chose the line. Do you want him handled? No. The word was quick and scared, as if it could be stolen. Then, softer. I mean, I want him to stop existing in the parts of my life that belong to me. That can be arranged without ending him, Louise said simply. Mercy and violence were tools, not costumes. She stood. The call. He let her go. Control is knowing when not to use it. By noon, sleet had turned to needling rain. The building's lobby glowed with marble and warm light, and Lisa navigated it like a map she'd drawn herself. She didn't see the man by the revolving door until he moved with purpose, until the glass caught a reflection that made her heart slam like a misfired engine. Ryan Cole hadn't changed his smile. It was still the counterfeit kind. Miss me? He asked, voice low enough that the security cameras would see a couple, not a crime. I'm at work, Lisa said flat. Leave. He angled closer. You don't get to tell me. A shadow fell across Ryan, Marco. She does here. Ryan's grin thinned. Bodyguard, huh? Cute. Exit's behind you. Ryan looked at Lisa like she was inventory. We'll finish later. No, Ryan, she said. We won't. He left. The air tasted like pennies. Do you need a ride home tonight? Marco asked, not unkind. I'll be fine, she said, because code words are habits. Thank you. Upstairs, the afternoon folded around agendas and signatures until the world broke at 3:12 p.m. Lisa's phone vibrated twice, then once more, a pattern only one person used. Unknown. Number, you did this. Unknown. Number, his car, Calumet. She swallowed, throat paper dry. She didn't answer. Another message arrived. No words, just an image, smeared red and black as if shot through rain. A dashboard, shattered. Her lungs forgot instruction. She went to the window because windows are honest. The river ran on, cold and indifferent. When she could move again, she walked into Luis's office, closing the door behind her like it might hold the future on the other side. My ex, she said, voice working. Someone just said, his car. Calumet River. Luis didn't blink. Show me. She placed the phone in his open hand. He studied the pixels the way other men studied scripture, then handed it to Marco, who had appeared as if the room called him. Pull dot cams, Luis said. Spin up our guy at CPD. I want eyes on that river. Marco was already dialing. Lisa wrapped her arms around herself, as if her bones were protesting their alignment. If something happened, if he... Agent O'Keefe will think it's you. She always does. And she'll think it's me, Lisa added, quieter. Because I left. Luis looked at her wrist, at the scarf of bruise hidden under knit. No decent law blames a woman for surviving. Decent law and real law don't always overlap. He considered that truth and set it aside for now. You won't go home tonight. She shook her head, reflexive. I can't. You won't, he repeated, and there was iron in it, but the kind that builds bridges, not cages. We have secure floors. You'll choose a room, and you'll ask my staff for anything you need. You'll leave when this is clean. This will never be clean, she said, and the honesty of it hurt them both. His phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then spoke into a silence that had weight. Say it. Marco's voice was low in the speaker. They pulled a car. Registration matches Ryan Cole. Driver door caved in. No body in the seat. There's blood. Thank you, Luis said, and ended the call. Lisa braced her hands on the back of a chair as if it were the only solid thing left. No body? Not yet. That's good, she said quickly, as if she owed Hope an apology. Maybe he... The office door opened without a knock, and the badge came in before the woman. Agent Mara O'Keefe had salt at her temples now, and the same eyes that could cut fat from truth. Afternoon, Mr. Conti. She flashed the badge, then tucked it away like a promise. Ms. Smith, we need to talk about your ex-boyfriend. Luis sat back. Always a pleasure, Agent. She didn't look at him. She looked at Lisa, and the sympathy there was real enough to make Lisa want to claw it away. There's been an incident at the Calumet River, O'Keefe said. We're treating Ryan Cole as missing, possibly deceased. Lisa's mouth worked. No sound. Then, I haven't seen him since last night. O'Keefe's gaze flicked to Luis, then back. We'll get to timelines. For now, I need your phone. Luis's laugh was almost kind. You'll get a warrant. I will, O'Keefe said, and didn't blink. And I'll get it fast. Something in the room shifted then, a line crossing another line at one terrible coordinate. Lisa set her phone on the desk. O'Keefe sealed it in a bag and straightened, professionalism like armor. There's more, she said. We found a flash drive in the vehicle. It contains ledgers that look a lot like yours, Mr. Conti, which would be an interesting coincidence if I believed in them. Luis steepled his fingers. Then don't. O'Keefe turned to Lisa again, softer now. Ms. Smith, do you need protective services tonight? Lisa's eyes went to Luis, not because she needed permission, but because her bones had learned where safety lived. I'm staying here. Of course you are, O'Keefe said, and for once there was no argument in it. She handed Lisa a card. Call me if you remember anything. Call me if you need anything. When the door closed, the office exhaled. Rain ticked the glass. Somewhere downriver, cranes turned slow necks toward the lake. Someone wants me to believe you did this, Lisa said, voice thin as thread. And someone wants you to believe I helped. Luis leaned forward, elbows on the desk, the city's gray light carving his cheekbones into intent. Then we won't believe. Her laugh broke halfway out. You make it sound easy. It's not. He stood. But it's simple. She wrapped her arms tighter, felt the cuff against the bruise, the old ache arguing with the new fear. What happens now? Luis looked at Marco, who'd already spread a map of the city across the credenza, pins blooming like constellations. He looked at the door where O'Keefe had left the scent of government and rain. He looked at Lisa. Now, he said, we keep you safe. We find the hand behind the messages, and we give O'Keefe the truth before someone sells her a prettier lie. Lisa nodded, and it felt like agreeing to jump and trusting there would be water. The lights hummed. The river moved. The phone on the desk, sealed in plastic, vibrated a ghostly shiver. Unknown number. Tell him the truth about the doorframe. Lisa's vision tunneled. Her hand found the back of the chair again. Luis heard the shape of the silence change. What doorframe? She lifted her eyes to him, and for the first time since the bruise showed itself, fear wasn't the loudest thing on her face. It was memory. The one I pressed my back against, she said, each word like a step into a room she'd locked. The night I left Ryan, 4th floor. He said if I walked past it, he'd make sure no one would ever believe me again. The next vibration came with an image. A stairwell camera's grainy frame and the date in the corner, years old. Lisa's shape against a painted number 4, and below it, a line that made the room feel suddenly smaller. You never made it past the door, Lisa. Not without me. The chair didn't move, the river didn't stop, but everything else did. Who had the camera? Who was rewriting her past? And why did the message feel less like a threat and more like the opening move of a script someone expected them to follow? The rain never really stopped that night. It only changed direction, like it couldn't decide whether to fall or rise. Luis Conti didn't leave the office. He stood by the window while the city exhaled smoke and sirens below. Behind him, Lisa sat with a wool blanket over her shoulders and an untouched mug of tea cooling beside her. She hadn't spoken in 20 minutes, but silence was its own confession. Her phone, still sealed in the evidence bag, rested on the desk between them like a ghost they were both afraid to touch. Finally, she said, the doorframe. That message. How would anyone have that footage? Luis turned, hands in his pockets. Someone with access. Maybe Ryan sold more than threats. Her eyes met his. Sold? He nodded slowly. Information, cameras, leverage. Men like him collect proof before they die. The words, before they die, landed heavy, and for a second she stopped breathing. Marco entered quietly, a folder in his hand. Preliminary report from our guy at CPD. They pulled a laptop from the trunk, corroded, but salvageable. And this. He slid a plastic bag across the desk. Inside lay a small silver flash drive with a red marking on the side. LC. Lisa stared at it. Those are your initials. Luis didn't move closer. Open it, he said to Marco. Marco connected it to the secure terminal near the wall. The screen flickered, code scrolling, then rows of numbers appeared. Columns, signatures, deposits. Bank ledgers, offshore accounts. Some marked Conti Holdings, others coded but familiar. Luis's jaw tightened. This is mine, but I never digitized these records. Then someone else did, Marco said. Looks like an inside job. Lisa stood. It's a setup. It has to be. Why else plant it in Ryan's car? Luis looked at her. To connect you to me. To both. The room felt smaller now. She walked to the window, watching the fog swallow the skyline. They're painting a story. The abused woman, the dangerous boss, the dead ex. It's perfect. Except it's false, Luis said. She looked back at him. False stories are easier to sell than true ones. He stepped closer, not touching, but near enough that his voice softened into the space between them. Lisa, I don't care who's writing it. They won't finish it without me. She met his eyes. And if they already did? He smiled. Sad. Dangerous. Then I'll edit the ending. By morning, headlines whispered rumors. Body found near Calumet Riverbank. Identity pending. Luis's phone vibrated nonstop. Partners, lawyers, silence requests. He ignored all of them. Lisa, exhausted, sat at the long table reviewing paper schedules just to stay busy. Her wrists trembled slightly when she turned pages. You didn't sleep, Luis said. Neither did you. I don't need to. That's not the same as can't. He almost smiled. Don't start analyzing me, Lisa. Then stop being readable. For the first time since midnight, a ghost of warmth flickered between them. The unspoken kind that hides beneath fear, waiting for permission to surface. Marco reappeared, darker circles under his eyes. CPD found something else inside the burned car, Ryan's watch, and traces of his blood on the steering wheel. But, he hesitated, no body yet. So he could still be alive, Lisa whispered. Or someone wants us to think so, Luis said. She rubbed her arms. He wouldn't do this. He didn't have the brains for strategy? Luis finished. No. But someone could be using his disappearance as currency. Who? Salvatore Vieri, Marco said. Our old friend. He's been quiet too long. Lisa frowned. The one you said prefers chaos? Luis nodded. He'd rather see fire than profit. Marco handed Luis another photo. A grainy surveillance still. Two men arguing near a chain-link fence. One looked unmistakably like Marco himself. Lisa's heart stuttered. That's you. Marco blinked. That's not me. Luis's voice lowered. Where did this come from? CPD source, Marco said. O'Keefe leaked it. She's baiting us. Lisa stepped closer to the image. The man's build was identical to Marco's. The coat even matched. Could it be edited? Could be, Luis said. But why him? Marco crossed his arms. Because they know I'm your closest link. If they can fracture us, they win. Luis finished. The screen dimmed. The flash drive still glowed red. Later that afternoon, Agent O'Keefe requested a courtesy meeting. She arrived with rain on her coat and the kind of calm that usually meant she was about to ruin someone's day. Luis received her in the glass conference room, Marco beside him, Lisa against the wall taking notes she couldn't read. Let's not dance, O'Keefe began. Ryan Cole is presumed dead, but the evidence trail is unconventional. Luis arched an eyebrow. Meaning? Meaning someone wanted it found, and someone else wanted to make sure you saw it first. She dropped a folder. Inside, photos of the ledger screenshots, time-stamped 2 a.m., hours before CPD officially recovered them. How would they exist before the discovery? Lisa asked quietly. O'Keefe's gaze softened on her. That's what I'm here to ask. You were close to him once. Did he ever mention leverage on Mr. Conti? Luis's voice was silk over steel. Ask me directly, Agent. I just did, she said, unwavering. Did Ryan Cole have anything on you? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. If he did, he'd still be alive. Silence pooled between them. O'Keefe finally closed the folder. We're running ballistics on the car. And until we find a body, this isn't murder. It's theater. She paused at the door. But Mr. Conti, sometimes theater ends in real blood. When she left, Marco muttered, "She knows too much." Luis replied, "Or just enough to be useful." Lisa folded her hands, trying to steady them. She said the footage existed before the discovery. That means the drive was planted. Someone inside CPD or inside your network. Luis met her eyes. Or both. That night, he drove her to a secure apartment complex outside downtown, a Conti-owned property with mirrored elevators and guards that nodded but never spoke. "You'll stay here," he said, escorting her inside. "No one gets past the lobby without me knowing." "I can't live in your shadow, Luis," she said quietly. He looked at her, the way he looked at threats, measuring their shape before dismantling them. "It's not my shadow. It's my protection." "And what if protection becomes another prison?" His eyes softened. "Then I'll build a door you can open whenever you want." She blinked hard, fighting the warmth rising in her chest. "You're good with doors." "I prefer walls," he said, smiling faintly. "But you keep walking through them." Lisa stepped closer. "Why are you helping me?" "Because someone should have, before the bruises." For a moment, neither spoke. The rain outside was softer here, tapping against glass like breath. When she finally nodded, it wasn't surrender, it was trust on probation. "Thank you," she whispered. He inclined his head. "Rest. Marco's outside. If your phone rings, don't answer unless it's me." Hours later, Lisa woke to a faint light flickering under the door. She rose, heart pounding, and opened it. A phone, not hers, lay on the floor, screen cracked, message open. "Unknown sender. He's not missing. He's a message." She stared, pulse roaring. Then another line appeared, typing bubbles fading in and out like breath. "Check the ledger again. Look for the 4th floor." The hallway light buzzed once, then died. Downstairs, Marco's radio crackled. Movement at the side entrance. Luis was already on his feet, pistol drawn, coat half-buttoned. "Stay with her." But when he reached the elevator, the screen above the doors blinked 4F. Accessed 0014 AM, 4th floor. He pressed the button. When the doors opened, the corridor was empty, except for a single white envelope taped to the wall beneath a camera. Inside, a photo, grainy, recent. Lisa's apartment door, wide open, and across the wood, drawn in black marker, door frame. Luis's pulse slowed into dangerous rhythm. Someone was rewriting history, step by step. He turned back toward the elevator and froze. From below came Lisa's scream, sharp and terrified. He ran, the sound slicing through every rule he'd ever lived by. When he reached the lobby, Marco was gone, and the front glass was shattered inward. On the floor lay Lisa's blanket from the couch, and a phone still glowing with the last received text. "Unknown number. She never should have told you." Everything inside Luis went cold. "Lock the building," he said into his comm. "No one leaves. No one breathes." He picked up the phone, scanning its reflection. For a split second, in the darkened glass, another reflection flickered behind him. A man's outline, tall, familiar. Then it was gone. The message remained. The city outside was silent, waiting. If Ryan was alive, he'd made his first move. And if he wasn't, someone else was playing him from the shadows. Luis pocketed the phone and whispered to the empty lobby, voice edged with promise. "You took what's mine to protect. Now I'll take back the night." And somewhere in the storm, a door slammed shut, the sound of the past finally coming for all of them. The wind off the river cut like a blade. Sirens echoed somewhere far below, but up here, on the 14th floor of Conti Tower, everything was still. Luis Conti stood over a city that used to obey him. Now it taunted him with silence. Lisa Smith was gone. Her apartment security feed showed only 27 seconds of static and the faint outline of a gloved hand covering the lens. Whoever took her knew the blind spots. Whoever took her had help. Marco's men moved through the building like ghosts, checking every stairwell and corridor. Luis didn't move. His control, the thing that built empires, had turned into something sharper, colder. "Talk," he said. Marco stood across from him, hair soaked, chest rising like a man trying to breathe underwater. 2 vehicles seen near the service dock, one black van, one white sedan, Plates switched. No witnesses. They knew what they were doing. Luis's fingers drummed once on the edge of the desk. O'Keefe? Already called. She's mobilizing a search, but wants you to stay out of it. She can want whatever she likes, Luis murmured. She's not built to find people like me. Marco hesitated. You think it's Vieri? I think, Luis said quietly, someone just turned a missing ex into bait. By dawn, Luis's office had become a war room. Blueprints, maps, digital grids. Marco stood by the screens, cycling through traffic feeds. Luis stared at a still image frozen on one of them. Lisa's last glimpse from the lobby camera. She was looking over her shoulder, her lips parted, like she'd heard something behind her. You see that? He asked. Marco leaned closer. She's turning. She heard the elevator before the glass broke. The timing's off by 2 seconds. Luis rewound the footage, frame by frame, until something faint appeared, a reflection in the marble floor. A pair of black boots, familiar tread. He zoomed in. Vieri's men, Marco confirmed. That pattern, custom Italian. Only his guys wear those. Luis exhaled through his teeth. He took her alive for a reason. Marco frowned. Leverage? Or message, Luis said. She's the only one who can't be replaced. 3 hours later, a call came through a private line no one should have known. Luis answered without words. A voice distorted through static. You shouldn't have looked at the ledgers, Conti. Where is she? Luis said, calm as winter. She's somewhere familiar, the voice replied. Somewhere she tried to leave once. Then silence. The line went dead. Luis's knuckles whitened around the receiver. Doorframe, he whispered. Marco looked up. What? The 4th floor. Her apartment years ago. That's where he heard her. That's where she swore she'd never go back. Marco grabbed his coat. You think they took her there? I think someone's recreating her nightmare, Luis said. And I'm about to end it. Lisa woke to the smell of bleach and old dust. Her wrists weren't tied, but her freedom was an illusion. She was in a room she knew too well. The cheap wallpaper, the single hanging bulb, the door frame marked with a dent where she once hid it trying to escape Ryan. Her breath came sharp. Why here? A shadow moved. Ryan Cole stepped out of the dark, alive. She stumbled backward, heart hammering. You're alive? His smile was wrong. Surprised? She shook her head slowly. You were supposed to be dead? Missing? Convenient. He laughed, voice brittle. Vieri helped me disappear. Said you'd come running back once the world thought I was gone. But then you found a new savior, didn't you? Luis had nothing to do with... Ryan slammed a hand against the wall beside her face. Don't lie to me. I saw the pictures. You in his office, late at night, whispering, laughing. Lisa's voice cracked. He protected me from you. That's what they all say, Ryan hissed. But I can fix it. We start over, you and me, like before. Before what? She said softly. Before you broke me? For a moment his eyes flickered. Remorse, maybe, or rage. But then he smiled again. You always were dramatic. A knock came from the other side of the door. A new voice, colder, Italian accent sliding like smoke. Time's up, Cole. The boss wants her alive, not bruised. Ryan stiffened. I said I'd handle it. The man outside laughed. And I said you wouldn't. Lisa's heart seized. Vieri. At that same moment, Luis's car sliced through the morning traffic. He'd traced the call's signal, 3 miles south of the river, near an abandoned tenement complex. Marco drove like the engine owed him a favor from God. You know it's a trap, Marco said. Everything worth saving is, Luis replied. They stopped half a block away. Rain drizzled from the eaves, washing grime down broken bricks. Luis stepped out, black gloves on, pistol low at his side. The world slowed to that quiet hum that always came before violence. Inside, 2 guards waited by the stairwell. They didn't see him until it was already over. 2 silenced shots, 1 breath. He climbed. 3rd floor, 4th. The old door creaked. Lisa stood frozen as the door burst open. Ryan spun, shouting, but the man outside, Vieri's enforcer, fell first, chest blooming red. Luis filled the doorway like retribution made flesh. His eyes locked on Lisa, alive, trembling, defiant. Then on Ryan. "Step away from her," Luis said. Ryan laughed, hysteria trembling in his voice. "Oh, you came for her, huh? Mafia prince to the rescue." Luis didn't move. "Last warning." "She loves me," Ryan spat. "You're just her replacement sin." Lisa whispered, "Stop." But Ryan lunged. One motion, one shot. Ryan dropped, clutching his shoulder, screaming. Luis's gun never wavered. "Alive," he muttered. "I promised alive." Lisa stared at him, shaking. "Luis." He turned to her, lowering the weapon. "You're safe now." But she shook her head. "No, you don't understand." He wasn't working alone. Behind them, the floorboards groaned. A man stepped out of the shadows. Slick suit, cold smile, silver ring gleaming. Salvatore Vieri. "Conti," he said, voice dripping with amusement. "You really should delegate. Doing rescues personally doesn't suit a man of your status." Luis aimed. "You should have stayed in your hole." Vieri smirked. "And miss this reunion? Impossible. I'm sentimental." He gestured toward Ryan bleeding on the floor. "You see, I needed someone believable to start your downfall. The jealous ex. The sympathetic secretary. The perfect headline. You planted the ledgers," Luis said flatly. Vieri bowed slightly. "Of course. I even let O'Keefe have a few breadcrumbs. She's so predictable." Lisa clenched her fists. "You used me." "Not used, cara mia. Featured. You made the story real." Luis stepped between them. "She's not part of your world, Vieri." "She is now." The room went still. The two men faced each other, light and shadow, mirrored in everything but soul. Vieri's tone dropped to silk. "You can't save her from what she knows. She's the only one who saw the ledgers before they burned. The only one who can testify. That makes her valuable. To everyone but you." Luis fired first. The bullet shattered the wall inches from Vieri's head. Vieri only laughed. Still noble. Still soft. He vanished down the stairwell, footsteps echoing. Luis started to follow, but Lisa grabbed his arm. "Don't." He turned, surprised. "He'll come back." "I know," she said, "but not tonight." Her voice trembled. "Just take me away from this place." They left the building in silence. Marco arrived seconds later, covering their exit. Rain fell harder now, washing the blood from Ryan's fingers as paramedics dragged him out alive. Barely. In the car, Lisa stared out the window. He knew everything. The camera, the messages. How? Luis's jaw tightened. Because someone inside gave it to him. "Inside your crew?" He nodded once. "The rot's deeper than I thought." Lisa looked at him, exhaustion and tenderness mingling. "You risked everything to find me." "I don't risk," he said softly. "I decide." She smiled faintly. "Then decide something else." "What?" "Let me stay beside you until this ends." He looked at her, eyes dark and unreadable. "That's not safe." "I'm done being safe." For a moment the car filled with nothing but the rhythm of rain. Then Luis reached across and took her hand gently, the same hand that once hid bruises. "No more hiding," he said. Later, back at Conti Tower, Marco placed a sealed envelope on the desk. "Intercepted courier drop meant for Vieri. You'll want to see this." Luis opened it. Inside were photographs, Lisa entering his building, his hand on her shoulder, their faces too close. Beneath them, a note typed in block letters. "The next move belongs to the woman who thinks she's safe." Luis stared at it for a long time. Then he burned it over an ashtray, flame licking the edges until nothing but gray curled away. Lisa stood by the window, watching the city pulse below. "He's not done, is he?" "No," Luis said, "but neither am I." She turned to face him. "What happens now?" He stepped closer, his voice low. "Now we stop reacting. Now we hunt." Her breath caught. "And if O'Keefe gets there first?" He smiled, dangerous and quiet. "Then she'll find only smoke." The storm outside deepened, lightning flashing across the skyline like cracks in glass. Somewhere in that electric night, Vieri was already moving his next piece, and in the shadows of Conti Tower, love and war had just become the same thing. Wind skated off the lake like broken glass. Navy Pier blinked its carnival lights at a city pretending it wasn't dangerous, and the Ferris wheel turned a slow halo over the water as if innocence could be manufactured by electricity. Luis Conti stood just beyond the tourist glow, a silhouette with his back to the lake and his eyes to every angle. Marco posted 20 yards off, dark coat, darker mood, speaking into his sleeve in a voice that made men move without asking why. Lisa stood between them, hood up, breath fogging, gaze fixed on the horizon, where night erased the line between water and sky. "This is a mistake," Marco said. "If Vieri wants theater, you don't buy the front row." "It's not Vieri's invitation I'm answering," Luis said. He lifted his chin toward the bench by the railing, where a black jacket lay folded with a precision that didn't belong to Ryan Cole. "It's the story he thinks we'll believe." Lisa took a half-step closer to the bench. The jacket was Ryan's. She recognized the stitched R on the inside tag, the frayed cuff from a night he slammed it in a door. Beneath the jacket sat a cheap portable player, the kind convenience stores kept behind scratched plexiglass. Its little screen glowed blue. Play. Luis reached across her, pressed the button with a gloved thumb, and let the recording breathe into the cold. Ryan's voice filled the pier, thinner than memory, amplified by the white roar of the lake. "He told me to disappear, Lisa. He said if I didn't, he'd put me in the water. He said—" A wet swallow. "He said you'd belong to him either way." Lisa closed her eyes. For one spare, terrible second, she was back in the stairwell with the painted four, the doorframe a border she didn't know how to cross. Luis didn't flinch. He lifted the player, thumbed the timestamp in the corner. "This says 8:15 p.m. last Tuesday." "You were at City Hall then," Lisa said. "Budget hearing. I built the binder." "You were on camera." She looked at the lake. "So how?" "Splice," Marco said, stepping in. "Pull the waveform." Luis did, thumb rolling the scrub wheel backward until the track burped a microscopic glitch. 2 frames of silence, an imperceptible cut to the untrained ear. Someone stitched a threat onto the back of a different night. Lisa exhaled. "So it's not true. He never—" Luis held her gaze. "I don't make threats I can't keep. If I wanted Ryan gone, he'd be a rumor instead of a playlist." Wind sighed through the empty ferries. Somewhere behind them, a teenager laughed, the sound too brittle for joy. The player hiccuped again and coughed up a new clip. Footsteps. Then Ryan again, whisper thin, pleading to someone with a voice they couldn't hear. Luis paused, let the city's reflection crawl over the black water, then pressed play once more. "You promised," Ryan said. "You said if I gave you the ledgers, if I—" The track snapped, then resumed mid-breath. "Kill me and let her think it was him." Lisa's fingers dug crescent moons into her palms. She wanted to be sick, not because she believed it, she didn't, but because she recognized the architecture of the lie. It was built for women who had run out of safe places to stand. "It's bait," Luis said. "Vieri wants O'Keefe to hear it before I do. He wants me to hear it before I trust you," Lisa said softly. Luis handed the player to Marco. "Scrape the file." "I want the original container, not the copy they want us to see." Marco nodded, eyes on the shadows that collected beneath the pier's pylons. "We've got position on the north and south approaches, 2 exit routes, but there's a blind spot on the wheel's east arm." "Which means that's where the gun is," Luis said. Lisa's head snapped. "Gun?" The word was still leaving her mouth when the first round hissed past her ear and kissed sparks from the metal brace behind her. Luis moved without thinking, one arm around her waist, the other shoving the bench forward to reroute the shooter's angle. They hit the deck as a second bullet chewed a sliver from the railing and flung it into the lake. "Down," he said into her hair, voice as steady as a metronome. "Stay with me." "I'm with you," she said, breath shaking. Marco's command burst through the comm. "North arm, upper platform, glass nest." His return fire barked once, twice, controlled and exact. People screamed, sensors blinked, the wheel slowed to a crawl as security pulled levers and shouted into radios. Luis rolled, presenting less body, using the bench as cover. Another round sliced the air, too fast to see, too loud to ignore. Pain opened along his shoulder in a hot line that felt like someone had pressed a branding iron under his skin. He didn't look at it. He pulled Lisa tighter, body a wall. Luis, she breathed. Not yours, he said, which was the only way he knew to say, mine to take, not yours to suffer. The shooter tried to walk a lead across the deck toward the sound of Marco's voice. Marco went silent, moved, came up somewhere else. The third round shattered the player, spraying glass like ice. Thank you, Luis murmured to the ruin. I hated your acting anyway. On your left, Marco said. Luis popped, fired 3 quick shots, one to box, one to herd, one to make the gunman blink, and bought them a corridor of seconds. He dragged Lisa behind the kiosk, into the kiss of shadow where the wind couldn't see them. Blood ran warm down his sleeve, made his palm slick. He wiped it on the wood, useless gesture, and set his hand against Lisa's cheek to anchor her eyes on his. Listen to me. If we split, you go to the carousel exit. Do not turn around. Do not wait. You'll find Marco at the waterline. She shook her head hard, hair sticking to her mouth. I'm not leaving you. Then look at me, he said. The world shrank to the green in her eyes under a cold Ferris wheel glow. Breathe with me. They breathed, slow in, slow out. The lake matched them, a long inhale under the boards, a long exhale against stone. The shooter rotated to the south arm, glass cracking under his knee, and the wheel shuddered to a stop like a giant held its breath. That's when Luis knew the man above them wasn't there to kill. He was there to corral. Vieri wants footage, he said, not funerals. He won't get either, Lisa said. He smiled, quick and crooked despite the blood. Then we agree. Another shot cracked. Luis's body moved before thought. He took the angle, not the slug, felt the round kiss air near his shoulder and chip a bench slat beside Lisa's ear. He put his mouth at her temple, a whisper that tasted like gunpowder in winter. Stay down. She turned her face into him because there was nowhere else to go that made sense. Her fingers closed around his lapel, and in the sliver of time between the next 2 bullets, she lifted her face. Luis, she said, and the sound of his name in her mouth was the softest thing the peer had ever heard. He kissed her. There wasn't room for caution in it. There wasn't room for a future either. Not with the wheel groaning and the shooter hunting and the lake making its old rough music. There was only a vow pressed into a mouth. You're not alone, not tonight, not ever again. And the gorgeous, reckless decision to let it be true for longer than a stolen breath. They broke only when Marco's shout fractured the air. Down! Luis spun, drew, fired into the glass corner where the muzzle flash had lived. The gun skittered, 3 stories up. A body reeled and thumped metal, then slid into darkness. Silence throbbed. Sirens moved closer like the city had finally remembered its job. Lisa touched the damp line on his sleeve, brushing the blood with the edge of her glove. You're hit. Scratched, he said, which made her laugh once, a sound that sounded like relief if you squinted hard enough. Security swarmed. Tourists were herded away by men with bright jackets and good intentions who had no idea what had almost stolen the night. Marco folded himself into the crew, badge light flashing, voice calm, shepherding threat out of what could be filmed. Time to go, he said. They moved as a unit, Marco a yard ahead, Lisa in the hook of Luis's body, Luis bleeding like he had time for it later. The car took them in, doors shutting out the smell of lake water and carnival grease. Only then did Lisa let her head rest against his shoulder for a second longer than propriety allowed. If you didn't show up, she said. I always show up, he said. It's the only reason I'm still alive. She smiled, tired and ferocious. That and stubbornness. He didn't deny it. Marco handed back a burner. O'Keefe's been calling. She'll have heard the shots. If we don't manage her, she'll manage us. Patch it, Luis said. The line clicked. Agent Mara O'Keefe didn't waste time on hello. Navy Pier, really? Paper rustled as if she were already holding witness statements. You draw a sniper to a public attraction, Conti? I didn't invite him, Luis said mildly, but he RSVP'd anyway. You're not funny, O'Keefe snapped. The edge softened half a degree when she addressed Lisa. Ms. Smith, are you hurt? I'm okay, Lisa said. He's not. She glanced at Luis's shoulder, at the dark star that had bled through his shirt and into the line of his coat. It grazed him. We can meet at Mercy now, O'Keefe said. I have a room I trust, and I have something you need to hear. What? Luis asked. Audio, she said. from a city cam that shouldn't record audio. It picks up a voice that isn't yours, threatening a man who is. Ryan, Lisa whispered. Bring her, O'Keefe added. And bring a lawyer you don't mind hearing lies. The line died. Marco raised an eyebrow in the rear view. We walking into her net? We're bringing scissors, Louis said. Drive. Mercy Hospital at midnight was all hum and antiseptic and tired people trying not to let the day spill into the dark. O'Keefe had a room the size of a confession. She closed the door, dropped a folder, and slid a small speaker to the middle of the table. City cam at 35th, she said. The one they pretend doesn't have a mic. Timestamp. Last Tuesday, 8:15 p.m. That's when the recording on the pier said our boy Conti threatened Mr. Cole. She clicked play. Wind. Traffic Dopplering. Then a voice. Male. Gravelly. Not Luis. You disappear tonight or you drown, Cole. She belongs to him either way. Luis's face didn't move, but his eyes did. A fractional narrowing that meant he'd found a seam. Play the next 10 seconds. She did. A dog barked. A train wailed. Somewhere a fryer beeped 3 times in a rhythm that made Lisa's head tilt. Again, she said, eyes closed, palms flat on the table. The beeps. O'Keefe rewound, played it. Beep, beep, beep. Greco's food truck, Lisa said. He parks near 35th under the tracks, and his fryer timer sings. He was out of service last Tuesday. His kid had the flu. He texted me to move your 9 p.m. You went to City Hall instead. She opened her eyes. This can't be Tuesday. This is another night, stitched to sound like the one they need. O'Keefe stared. Slowly, her shoulders dropped. The fury she wore like a badge turned into something more dangerous. Belief. If I prove it's a composite, my case doesn't collapse. It pivots toward whoever gave me the file. Rogue subordinate, Lisa whispered, remembering Vieri's gloating cadence. Vieri says a lot of things, O'Keefe cut in, but he's not the one signing CPD evidence logs. She turned to Luis. You and I are not friends, but we can have overlapping enemies. A beat. Give me your mole. I'll give you your rival. Marco folded his arms. And what do you want for the gift wrap? Lisa's statement, O'Keefe said, eyes moving back to the woman at the table. About Ryan's violence. About the doorframe. About the night she left and the calls he made after. It paints him as a man who would sell any story if it bought him control. Lisa felt the room tilt, not from fear, but from gravity, like a planet choosing an orbit. She laced her fingers together so they'd stop shaking. I'll tell the truth, she said quietly. I'm just tired of telling it to men who don't care. O'Keefe's eyes softened, painful and brief. I care more when the truth ruins a rival's day. That was the most compassion she could allow herself to show, and they all respected it for being honest. The door burst inward before anyone could breathe a reply. A nurse stood there, face white, hands shaking around a phone. I was told to give this to Ms. Smith, she said, voice pitched high. The caller said it was life or death. Lisa took the phone like it might bite. The screen showed unknown. She put it to her ear. Hello? For a second, nothing but the steady hiss of a line going nowhere, then a voice that wore a smile like velvet pulled over wire. Good evening, Lisa. Her bones knew that cadence even if she'd never heard it across a phone. Vieri. I prefer Salvatore, he said. But tonight, let's be intimate with truths. O'Keefe leaned in, ear almost touching the other side of the phone. Marco's hand hovered over his pistol. Luis didn't move at all. You like games, Vieri continued, the lazy music of his accent sliding into her ear. So, here's one you'll win if you choose correctly. There are 2 packages moving across my city as we speak. One holds the original ledger files that exonerate your devoted employer. The other holds a man who knows why Ryan Cole learned the word disappear. Lisa's throat worked. What do you want me to trade? Only a promise, he purred. Meet me alone. No Conti, no agents, no guns. I'll give you the truth, to use as you please. And I'll tell you who inside your pretty tower sold your doorframe to the highest bidder. Luis reached for the phone. Lisa flinched back, not away from him, but from the idea of losing this inch of control. She kept the device to her ear. If I don't come, then the package with your absolution burns on the river, Vieri said, voice almost tender. and the other package stops breathing. Where? Somewhere you used to love before you learned to survive. She could hear his smile. Be brave for once, doorframe girl. Choose your future. The line died. O'Keefe swore softly. Marco did it louder. Luis finally stood, the motion quiet as a gun being loaded. No, he said. Lisa lifted her eyes. You can't veto my life. He's not calling you for a conversation, Luis said. He's calling you for leverage. She took a breath and watched the way it feathered in the hospital's cold light. Maybe I'm done being leveraged by everyone but me. O'Keefe spread her hands, palms up. We can stage it. Wire, long lens, tracking units you don't even know I have. And he'll smell them before I leave the block, Lisa said. He already found me in a secured building and on a pier with 1,000 cameras. He's writing this act either way. She turned to Luis, and there was old softness in her voice that didn't weaken it. You told me you'd build a door I could open. Don't lock this one. Luis's jaw flexed once. He looked like a man arguing with his own blood. You walk toward him, and I can't guarantee. You can't guarantee anything even if I don't, she said, gentler. That's the point. There was a long silence, filled with the beep of a heart monitor next door and the low thunder of a storm rolling off the lake. Finally, Luis nodded. It looked like surrender until you noticed the calculation behind his eyes. If you're going, he said, we choose the field. She exhaled, relief and terror braided so tight they were indistinguishable. Where? Somewhere we can listen harder than he can talk, he said. He turned to O'Keefe. You want your rogue? You'll get him, but you'll do it my way. O'Keefe's mouth twitched. I hate your way. You'll love the result, he said. Then give me your plan, she replied. Luis looked down at his blood-dark sleeve, then back to the two people he trusted least and most in the city. He spoke low and fast, and the plan sounded like weather, inevitable, precise, and very hard to argue with. Lisa listened until the room's edges steadied and the future narrowed to a single choice that felt almost like freedom. When they finished, no one moved for a heartbeat. Then O'Keefe's phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen and swore again. We have 20 minutes. For what? Marco asked. Vieri's package, she said, passing the phone to Luis. A drone feed from the river. Something's on fire. Luis watched the dark water bloom orange where a small boat burned like a confession. He didn't blink when it tipped, hissed, and went under. Ledger or man? Marco asked. Luis set the phone down. His voice was very calm. We'll ask him when Lisa arrives. Lisa stared at the door, at the space beyond it where the hospital ended and Vieri's invitation began. She squared her shoulders, standing taller than the bruise-colored days behind her. Tell me where, she said. Luis met her eyes. The old carousel by the Riverwalk, 10 minutes early, no weapons. And you? She asked. I'll be air, he said. You won't see me, but he will. She nodded once. The decision settled over her like a coat she chose to wear. She reached for Luis's hand. He let her have it. Whatever he offers, he said, holding her for 2 heartbeats longer than safe. Remember what you already have. She squeezed. I remember. They let go. Lisa turned to the door. The night waited like a stage with the curtain just beginning to rise, and somewhere out over the lake, a phone that belonged to a drowning man sank past the wreckage of a ledger that might never have been. The old carousel by the Riverwalk woke like a memory someone turned back on. Bulbs flickered, then held. Horses with cracked paint lifted in their frozen gallop, mouths open to a song no one could quite hear. Wind coming off the water pressed a wet hand to Lisa Smith's cheeks and threaded cold fingers through her hair. 10 minutes early, like he asked. 10 minutes for her to change her mind. She didn't. No coat could hide the shiver in her bones, but her spine was a line. She stood under the cupped lights, palms empty, pockets empty, heart not empty at all. Somewhere beyond the glow, the city moved, traffic like a low tide, sirens far away. Closer in, nothing. Which meant everything. A shadow detached from the trees. Salvatore Vieri walked into the light the way a man steps onto a stage he paid for, hands open, smile slight, ring flashing as if it were a signature. Cara, he said. Thank you for believing in romance. No guns, no chaperones. I didn't say I came alone. Lisa replied, voice even. I said I came without them. His smile warmed. You are always going to be better than your story. Then stop writing it, she said. He touched the brass rail of a painted mare as if to steady it. One truth for one truth. That was the bargain. He tilted his head. Ask. Across the river, office windows flickered like constellations. In the darkness beyond the lights, air pooled and thinned. Lisa couldn't see Luis, but she knew where he'd be, where the wind was strongest, where he could listen better than any man could speak. She took a breath that tasted like old wood and rain. Ryan, she said. Did you kill him? Vieri's smile sharpened. He is very hard to kill, you're Ryan. Cowards often are. Alive then, she said. For now. Vieri nodded at the carousel's center post, at the beveled mirror that showed them both thinner, taller, like the glass expected more of them. He came to me first, weeks ago, offered a performance. Make me disappear, he said, so she runs to me again. Poor boy thought death would make him irresistible. Vieri's eyes glittered, almost kind. He sold me a ledger for his vanishing act. The flash drive, Lisa said, with Conti's books. Planted in his car like a valentine. Vieri shrugged. I arranged the scene, a burned shell, a smear of blood, a watch. I let your agent O'Keefe find what she was trained to find. She did not disappoint. Lisa fought the tilt of the ground. You used me. I used his idea. Vieri lifted a hand. And then your Ryan made a second mistake. He tried to sell a different ending to a federal ear that didn't belong to O'Keefe. Name, she said. Her voice didn't shake. Agent Daniel Harker, Vieri replied, savoring the syllables. The kind of man who believes the mirror more than the reflection. He took my doctored audio and blessed it with a seal. He will lose his badge by dawn if your cop queen is half the hunter I think she is. A beat. I gave her the audio, of course. A good adversary deserves tempo. Lisa swallowed. Why tell me this? Because you trade in schedules and truth, Ms. Smith, he said softly. You'll arrange the fall better than I could. You always have. Wind creaked the wooden canopy. Somewhere, a flag snapped once and fell still. Lisa's next question came like a blade she'd been carrying too long. The stills of Marco arguing with Ryan, she said. The look-alike. Vieri's smile turned amused. My cousin Luca. He likes your Marco's coat. He also likes to be paid twice for one performance. Consider this my apology for hiring family. Lisa heard Luis in the air. We'll take proof if he offers it, but the day he offers it, he's buying something bigger. She forced her shoulders to stay square. And the door frame, she said. Who gave you that stairwell footage? Vieri's eyes warmed. Ah, now we walk into your shadows. He leaned in, close enough that she could smell clove and smoke. There is a bookkeeper who loves numbers more than loyalty. He digitized your boss's old ledgers for his own protection and sold a copy to the highest bidder. A name rose in her throat like a bruise. Anthony Greco, she said. Bravo. Vieri touched his ring to the rail, a tiny click. He also kept a key to your building's back camera. He sold me your fourth floor the way a pawnbroker sells a wedding ring, without flinching. She had to close her eyes then, not because the wind was fierce, but because belief bent in her chest, and she needed it to break cleanly, or not at all. Greco, who'd brought her coffee when she stayed late, who'd printed her color copies when the main machine jammed. Greco, who knew where the paperclips lived and where the bodies might too. Where is he? She asked. Running toward a door he thinks will open, Vieri said. He doesn't know who is on the other side. Lisa opened her eyes. And Ryan? Where he's always been, Vieri said gently. Between a man who wants to own you and a man who wants to keep you. He tipped his head. You will choose the latter. I am simply accelerating the plot. She looked through him then, past him, to the shadow on the far ledge, where wind took shape and made itself a man. Luis wasn't visible. He was present anyway. What do you want, Vieri? She asked. No poetry? For Conti to bleed, he said, shrugging. Not to die. Men like him are more useful alive, and for you to say my name when you tell this story to your children. He smiled. Habit and hunger. I will be the villain who made you brave. Luis made me brave, she said. Something like affection twitched across Vieri's face. Then at least we agree on the ending. A faint vibration at the edge of her awareness tugged her attention, the smallest pressure against the inner curve of her left ear. Not a sound, but a presence. A reminder of air. With you, the silence said. With you, with you. Last truth, Vieri murmured. Then your turn. She nodded. He reached into his coat slowly, theatrically, and placed a small black key on the carousel's brass ledge, cold, heavy, with a strip of tape labeled in block letters, River, Unit B. The incomplete tower on the riverfront, he said. Second service elevator. This key stops the brake for 60 seconds, long enough for a man to fall if he is clumsy, or to rise if he is not. Lisa stared at the key. Why give me that? Because Ryan is going there now, Vieri said. With a friend you will recognize. His smile thinned. Harker is driving. Lisa felt the floor tilt again. The rogue agent is escorting him. Nothing is safer than a wolf in a uniform, Vieri said. Consider this my proof of good faith. Nothing you do is good, she said. He bowed the tiniest degree. Now your truth, and make it pretty. She thought of everything she could say, every way to spin grief and want into something that would not be used against her. She chose simple instead. I don't belong to anyone, Lisa said. Vieri's eyes lit briefly, like a man who had just witnessed a rare animal step into the open. At last, he murmured. There you are. A new sound came then, a low hum threaded with static, almost lost under the river and the bulbs in the wind. Vieri's gaze flicked to the edge of the trees. The distant boughs moved wrong. He inhaled slow. Air, he said softly. Hello, Conti. Lisa didn't turn. She didn't need to. The knowledge of Luis was a weight at her back, a pressure in the shape of safety. She kept her eyes on Vieri. You think I'm walking away, he said. I am, but not because you frightened me. His smile returned, weary and delighted. Because I delivered Act 2. He stepped backward, shadow tucking him away, and vanished. For 3 heartbeats, nothing moved but the horses on their poles, rising to nowhere. Then a man peeled out of the trees, not Vieri's height, not his grace. CPD jacket, baseball cap, scarf. Marco's voice licked her ear in that almost sound. Not ours. The man lifted a phone, showed Lisa a screen, live video. A dark elevator, a red bee glowing. A man in the corner, wiry, injured, looked up at the lens with eyes she had once mapped like weather. Lisa, Ryan said, tinny through a speaker. You there? He lifted his other hand. The camera caught the glint of a gun. Agent Daniel Harker stepped into frame behind him, badge at his belt, jaw set in that particular way men get when they expect to be obeyed by virtue of their posture. Come say goodbye to the boss, Harker said to whoever held the camera and whoever watched. The feed jerked as if the phone had been grabbed. It blurred into the shape of a corridor, then into night, then into nothing. The man with the CPD jacket lowered the phone and smiled too much. Your chariot, he said to Lisa, and swung an arm toward a sedan idling at the curb, engine ticking. Don't, Marco's almost voice breathed. We have his plate. Lisa didn't move. She looked at the sedan as if looking could slow it, then past it, into the dark where she knew Luis had become the shape of wind. Thank you, she said to the fake cop, for the invitation. Get in the car, he said, still smiling, or he throws someone off the tower to fetch you. Someone who? She asked. He hesitated. It was so small a hitch that another woman might have missed it. Lisa didn't. She took a step, not toward the car, but toward the carousel's edge where the little black key lay like a dare. My boss, the man said finally, said to bring you whole. The word boss stretched on his tongue like gum. It didn't sound like Vieri. It didn't sound like Luis. It sounded like someone who hadn't decided yet what he wanted to be when he grew into his cruelty. Lisa lifted the key. It was heavy enough to be a promise. The man's smile faltered. Now. Air tightened beside her. The pressure of a hand that wasn't there, guiding, warning. Lisa spoke aloud, not to the man, not to the wind, but to herself. No more door frames, she said. And then she did the thing no one expected. She walked around the sedan, not to its passenger side, but to the driver's window, and tapped the glass the way Louise tapped at men who believed themselves inevitable. The man flinched. The tiny movement yanked the smallest thread in the night's sweater. O'Keefe's sedan rolled from the opposite curb without siren or apology. Two unmarked vehicles stitched themselves between streetlights. The CPD jacket's smile broke, showing too many teeth and too little plan. "Hands!" a voice commanded from everywhere. "Now!" The man ran. He made it 3 steps before the air moved. Luis wasn't a shadow then. He was a decision. He took the man's momentum, redirected it to ground, and pressed a knee into the place that makes liars remember their names. The gun clattered, spun, stopped with its mouth at the base of the painted horse Lisa had been standing beside. Agent O'Keefe was out of her car and hauling the man upright before his breath refound him. "Badge number," she said to the empty patch of jacket. "And then your lawyer's name." His mouth worked. "You can't." "I can," she said, so calm it could cut. "And I will." Luis's eyes found Lisa. They stayed there for half a second longer than allowed, as if he were checking the edges of her for cracks. "You shouldn't have stepped that close," he said. "You shouldn't have bled at the pier," she said. They looked at each other until the night remembered to breathe. O'Keefe snapped cuffs. Marco melted back into a darker line of dark. "Talk fast," O'Keefe told the man. "Where's Harker?" "I don't—" "He's at the tower," the man blurted. Fear peeled the varnish off his bravado. "He said the elevator needs a key, Unit B. He told me to—" The rest tripped over his tongue. "He said to tell the girl she had to come alone." O'Keefe's eyes sliced to the black key shining in Lisa's hand. "You're not going alone." "Of course she isn't," Luis said. Lisa looked down at the key. The tape label was already fraying at the corner. She pressed it flat with her thumb. "Vieri gave me this so I'd go," she said. "Vieri gave you this because he wants a camera," Luis said. "He'll have one. Ours." O'Keefe's radio muttered 3 words that rearranged the air. "Unit B, movement." The dispatcher's voice steadied. "Unfinished tower, east service shaft." Luis raised his hand. Marco was suddenly there, placing a compact pack in it. Rope, line, a square of black electronics that hummed like a heart. Luis slid it on without looking, the ritual of a man who had done this too many times in too many lives. "You're not climbing that shaft," O'Keefe said. "I'm not waiting at the curb," he said. Lisa stepped forward. "Then you're not doing it without me." Both of them looked at her. The space between their stares was a bridge. "Lisa," O'Keefe began. "We can handle—" "You can arrest," Lisa said gently. "You can't stop him from calling me a liar if I'm not there to tell the truth while he's still breathing." Luis's jaw worked once, a private argument. Then, "You stay behind me." "It's a small behind," she said, the ghost of a smile finding them both. "But yes." O'Keefe exhaled like a woman who had to trust 2 people she would rather indict. "Fine. But my people set the perimeter. Harker is mine." "Greco is mine," Luis said, thinking past the tower, toward a bookkeeper running for a door that wouldn't save him. "Then let's make them both wish for worse," O'Keefe said, and flicked her fingers at the world. The world moved. They went to the cars with a speed that wasn't panic. Blue washed the underside of the clouds. The river's skin shivered as if the city had a fever. Luis opened the passenger door and didn't ask. Lisa got in without pretending to hesitate. The key lay warm in her palm. She closed her fist around it. "Whatever happens," he said as the engine took them, "remember this is not your fault. Not his violence, not their lies, not the door frame." She turned her face toward him, letting the streetlight lace his cheekbones in gold and shadow. "Then let me choose the last door." His mouth softened. "We choose it together." The unfinished tower rose ahead, concrete ribs, glassless sockets, a thing half-built and therefore honest about its dangers. Wind moaned in its throat. A construction banner snapped, name of a company that would deny everything in the morning. O'Keefe's voice bled through the calm. Positions, stairwells, a perimeter like a net that might hold if the fish agreed to be held. Marco cracked the magazine on a short carbine, checked, reseated. Luis flexed his hand once, twice, as if reminding it how to keep. Lisa opened her palm. The key winked back. River, Unit B. Ready? Louise asked. She looked at the tower, at the gap where the sky lived inside it, at the elevator shaft that would feel like a throat. She thought of the pier, of his mouth at her temple, of how the kiss wasn't caution and wasn't future, and was still, somehow, both. Ready, she said. The car rolled to a stop. Wind slashed, tasted like old plans. O'Keefe's people ghosted into the sight, black on rain. Somewhere above them, a phone vibrated in a pocket that had never once held a prayer. They stepped out together. Far up the skeleton of floors, a light moved, quick, uneven, like a man arguing with his own courage. Another light moved behind it, steady, like a man who believed in his badge the way some men believe in mirrors. Ryan was alive. Parker was with him. And the key in Lisa's hand would decide whether the elevator rose or failed. She closed her fingers around the metal, felt its teeth bite her skin, and let the night hear the line she thought she'd never get to say and mean. No more door frames. Louise's hand brushed hers as they crossed the threshold into the tower's dark. And high above, something heavy slid into place with the finality of a choice. The unfinished tower crouched over the river like a secret it wanted to keep. Rain poured sideways, stinging against steel beams, dripping through empty windows into the concrete belly below. Lisa Smith gripped the rail of the service elevator, the small black key slick in her palm, her heart hammering faster than the wind. Luis Conti stood beside her, black coat unbuttoned, his shoulder still bandaged from the pier. He looked up through the cage of metal, counting floors with his eyes. Unit B, he murmured, 2 levels below the roof. The brake override lasts 60 seconds, Lisa said, her voice trembling only from cold. After that, then we don't need 61, Luis finished. Above them, faint but real, a shout cut through the storm. Ryan Cole, and another voice, steady, commanding, colder than rain, Agent Daniel Harker. Luis pressed the call button. The elevator groaned to life, cables whining. Lisa slid the key into its slot, turned it until a green light blinked. The platform jerked upward, rising through the tower's ribs. Below, flashlights glimmered, O'Keefe's team sweeping each floor. Lisa tightened her hand around the rail. He's up there, Ryan and Harker. Harker's the kind of man who forgets which side of the badge he stands on, Luis said. Vieri just gave him a map. And Greco? He's coming, Luis said, running from one master into another. The elevator reached the 12th floor, the storm loud now. Luis stepped off first, gun low, body moving with the precision of someone who never stopped calculating. Lisa followed. Wind tore at her hair, wet strands clinging to her face. Ahead, light spilled from an unfinished office, one of the only rooms with power. Ryan was inside. He looked smaller than memory, drenched, shaking, wild-eyed. Harker stood near him, gun drawn, pointing not at Ryan, but at the doorway. "Stay right there," Harker barked. "Both of you." Luis didn't move. "Drop it, Agent." "You don't give orders in my city," Harker snapped. "You built the rot. I just took the payment." Lisa stepped forward before Luis could stop her. "You planted the ledgers. You fed O'Keefe false proof. You wanted Luis blamed." Harker smiled, a thin, tired thing. Someone had to balance the scales. "You think men like him fall without help?" Ryan turned on him, desperation cracking through. "You promised I'd walk free." "You were supposed to vanish quietly," Harker snarled. "But you talk too much." Lisa's breath caught. "You lied to everyone." Harker's finger tightened on the trigger. Then Luis moved. It wasn't a rush, it was geometry. A step, a pivot, a hand knocking Harker's wrist offline. The shot cracked into the concrete wall. Ryan screamed, dropping to the floor. Lisa dove for cover, heart pounding. Luis wrenched the gun away, the two men colliding against the unfinished wall, fists meeting skin, breath, rage. Harker swung hard. Luis blocked, countered with precision, drove him backward into the exposed beam. The gun skittered across the floor, stopping near Ryan's hand. Ryan's eyes darted between them, between the man who'd hit him once out of love and the man who'd used him out of greed. He picked up the gun. "Stop!" Lisa cried. Ryan's voice shook. "He ruined everything. All of it." "Ryan, please," she said softly, stepping closer. "You don't have to." I have to, he screamed. You never looked at me the way you looked at him. Lightning flared, washing the room in white. Luis froze, blood running down his temple. Lisa's throat closed. She saw Ryan's finger press. A single shot split the air, but it wasn't Ryan's. Marco stood in the doorway, gun still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. Ryan dropped, the weapon slipping from his hand, shock on his face. Luis caught him before he hit the floor. You were given choices, he said quietly. You kept picking the same door. Ryan's lips moved once, a word that could have been sorry or save me. Then he went still. Lisa knelt, shaking. Rain spilled through the broken window, pooling around her knees. Harker groaned, clutching his ribs where Luis had struck him. O'Keefe burst in, her agents behind her, guns leveled. She took in the scene. Ryan on the ground, Harker bleeding, Luis steady, Lisa pale but unbroken. Lower your weapon, O'Keefe ordered. Luis set his gun down carefully, hands open. You're late. I'm on time for paperwork, she said, cuffing Harker with mechanical precision. You're under arrest for obstruction, conspiracy, and about 10 other things I'll enjoy naming later. Harker spat blood. You think this changes anything? There'll always be more. Then we'll burn the book, O'Keefe said, tightening the cuffs. Starting with you. When the sirens faded and the bodies were gone, dawn broke weak and colorless over the city. The tower's skeleton gleamed wet in the new light. Luis stood near the railing, looking down at the river that had carried too many secrets. Lisa joined him, wrapped in Marco's coat. Her hair clung damply to her neck, eyes rimmed red but bright. It's over, she said softly. He looked at her. For now, until someone writes a new ledger. She smiled faintly. Then we make sure they don't. From her pocket, she pulled a waterproof envelope, the last piece of the flash drive's copy O'Keefe had returned. Inside, numbers, names, accounts. Proof of everything Harker had sold. Lisa opened the lighter Luis handed her. Flame caught, bright and hungry. Together they watched the plastic curl, the ink dissolve, the ledger burn. Justice, she whispered. Freedom, he said. The ashes drifted over the river like black snow. They left the tower hand in hand. Marco drove them back to the Conti estate in silence, the car's heater humming. O'Keefe followed behind, one cruiser length away, watching but not interfering. By afternoon, the sky cleared. Sunlight spilled through the office windows, gold and calm. Luis leaned against his desk, unbuttoned shirt revealing a line of clean bandage. Lisa stood opposite him, arms folded, studying him like a puzzle she finally understood. You kept your promise, she said. Which one? You said you'd build a door I could open. He smiled, slow. And did you? I did. Her eyes softened. And I found you on the other side. He took a step closer, stopping inches away. What do you want now, Lisa Smith? She tilted her head, pretending to think. A normal job. Less blood, maybe shorter hours. He laughed quietly, the first real laugh she'd ever heard from him. That's not who you are. No, she agreed. But maybe it's who I get to be, with you. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His touch was careful, reverent, the opposite of the violence she'd survived. No more bruises, he said. Only reminders, she replied, covering his hand with hers, of what it took to heal. He leaned in. She met him halfway. The kiss wasn't desperate this time. It was deliberate. Two people choosing light after so much shadow. That night, the Conti Tower glowed again, but softer, warmer. The city below still hummed with secrets, but for once, none belonged to them. In his study, Luis poured 2 glasses of wine. Lisa watched the skyline reflect off the river, thinking of everything that had burned and everything that had survived. Luis, she said, voice quiet, do you believe people like us can really start over? He handed her the glass. We don't start over, he said. We start honest. She smiled, lifting her glass. To honesty, then. He touched his to hers, the faint chime cutting through the hum of the city. To freedom, he said. And for the first time, both of them meant it. Outside, the last page of the story turned itself over, the city lights flickering like embers, and the ledger of old sins at long last turned to ash. If you enjoy stories like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That's how I'll know you truly liked it. Even if you're watching on your TV, grab a second to join this family of fans who love emotional and heartfelt stories. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you even more tales like this one.